What's up everybody, Commander Sanctum here, and today we have a brand new budget deck tech using Duskana the Rage Mother. Duskana is a 5/5 legendary bear for 2 colorless and a red, green, and white with 2 abilities. When Duskana enters the battlefield, you draw a card for each creature you control with base power and toughness 2. Duskana also has, whenever a creature you control with base power and toughness 2 attacks, it gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Needless to say, Duskana works very well with 2/2 creatures. Rather than simply putting all the best 2/2s together into a deck, or making a bear-centric deck, this deck tech will focus on a more unique and fun theme, anthems. This deck will contain a slew of anthems, both non-creature and creature alike, in order to pump up all the creatures on the battlefield and make them even bigger than the normal 5/5 they will become with Duskana's ability. This works due to the fact that Duskana only cares about base power and toughness, so any pumps to creatures will not affect Duskana's ability. To stay in line with Duskana's abilities, we will also only be using creature-based anthems from creatures that themselves are 2/2s. As mentioned, this will also be a budget deck tech that will conform to the following rules. The entire deck list will be under or at $50, excluding basic lands. Basic lands are excluded to not skew the results, since non-collectible basic lands are pretty much not worth anything. The cheapest printings of cards in English will be used to calculate the total cost. So if a card has multiple printings, whichever one is listed at the cheapest will be used in calculations. Finally, the prices of cards will be calculated according to the prices listed on Architect, specifically the ones from TCG Player. These prices will be correct as of the release of this video, after which they may fluctuate up or down depending on the market. With that, let's get into the card highlights. Starting with the enchantment-based anthems, we have the namesake of the theme, Glorious Anthem, as well as Collective Blessing, which has the added benefit of being +3/+3 instead of a simple +1/+1. Commander's Insignia is a nice upside in situations where Duskana is being consistently removed from the battlefield, as it will continually make creatures larger as the game goes on. In addition to the enchantment anthems that only buff creatures, we have a number of them that have additional effects as well. Examples include Spear of Heliod, Marshal's Anthem, and Paladin class, which can destroy a creature, bring creatures back from the graveyard, and help mitigate your opponents from casting spells, respectively. Starting out the creature-based anthems, we have a few that buff all other creatures. Kong Ming, Sleeping Dragon, and Thraben Watcher are 2 such cards, with Thraben Watcher also giving them vigilance. Ultramarine's Honor Guard can be a powerhouse later in the game, as being able to squat in multiple times can make creatures massive while making more 2/2 tokens to help with Duskana's abilities. There are also a few enter the battlefield anthem effects, including Imodane's Recruiter and Flamekin Zealot, which give all your creatures a buff, +1/+1 in the case of Flamekin Zealot, and +1/+0 in the case of Imodane's Recruiter, as well as haste when they enter. Gold Knight Commander is particularly powerful, as its ETB triggers whenever another creature enters the battlefield, meaning if you are able to generate a number of tokens, or simply play a few creatures in a single turn, all of your creatures will be buffed multiple times from its abilities. The other common action that causes triggered events to occur, attacking, also has a number of 2/2 creatures with anthem effects. Inspiring Unicorn, Piana Nomad Captain, and Soltari Champion are all great examples of this effect, with Soltari Champion being particularly good as it has Shadow and is unlikely to be able to be blocked. Attacking to get an anthem effect can be risky depending on the state of the board, but Soltari Champion helps mitigate this risk due to it. Bolthound and Targnar Demon Fang Null are also similar cards, though these ones only give +1/+0 instead of +1/+1. Targnar also does require attacking with creatures with total power 6 or greater, but with Duskana out, this basically just means attacking with Targnar and one other creature to trigger his anthem. Targnar's double power and toughness ability can also be used to extremely great effect, since attacking with him with Duskana out will already make him a 5/5, thus allowing you to snowball his power and toughness much easier with less activations of the ability. There was a cycle of cards back in M15, known as Paragons, that fit well within our theme, though they are a little more restrictive than other cards previously shown. These Paragons, of which there is one of each color, only buff creatures of their color and nothing else. This does make them a little bit less effective, but each Paragon also has an activated ability that can help our creatures out with specific scenarios, either letting them attack more quickly, get damage through, or leave a blocker up for your opponents. Again, these activated abilities can only target creatures of the Paragon's color, but it's a nice little bonus that can help us out in certain situations. So far we've looked at cards that pair well with Duskana's second ability, the attack trick one, but what about Duskana's card draw ability? This ability can be very powerful in its own right, as it is likely to give us some card advantage if we have a larger board presence. To help achieve this without having to recast Duskana over and over again, we can use some blink effects. Cloud Shift and Flicker of Fate are great examples of this. Since they are instant speed, we can use them to also protect Duskana from targeted removal, giving us the benefit of protection as well as drawing cards when Duskana re-enters the battlefield. Eerie Interlude and Semester's End are additional examples of blink effects, but these ones have the added benefit of blinking more than one creature if desired. This can be particularly great in this deck for creature anthems that have enter the battlefield effects, as it will help in re-triggering those. These cards are also different in that the creatures re-enter the battlefield at the next end step and not immediately. This makes these cards great responses to board wipes, as it will protect your stuff from being destroyed, whereas all of your opponent's creatures will die. Finally, there are a number of good utility cards that can help us win the game or give us an advantage. Overwhelming Stampede and Return of the Wildspeaker are both great pump effects that could buff our creatures even more, potentially allowing us to win on the spot when they are cast. Return of the Wildspeaker in particular has a great modular effect, allowing us to draw a ton of cards instead of pumping our creatures in situations where we've got no or few cards in hand. Two great Warhammer 40k cards are also effective in this deck. Inquisitorial Rosette not only makes us 2/2 tokens, but also gives all of our attacking creatures menace, which is a great way to evade your opponent's blockers and sneak some extra damage in. Defenders of Humanity can be brutal in this deck, giving us an army of 5/5 attackers with Duskana already out, or allowing us to draw a ton of cards if cast before casting Duskana. Not only that, but Defenders of Humanity's activated ability is excellent in cases where our board has been wiped and we need creatures out quickly. While neither of these cards create creatures with anthem effects, the ability to give our creatures evasion and pump out creatures quickly in dire situations warrant their additions to the deck. Here is the full deck list utilizing all the previously mentioned cards. Additional cards include typical green ramp spells like Farseek and Cultivate, card draw spells like Harmonize and Rishkar's Expertise, and Mentor of the Meek, which fits extremely well with the theme of tutus. Per the budget requirements, this deck list comes out to a total of $44.30, even giving us some extra wiggle room in our $50 budget. This is a fun and unique take on a Duskana the Rage Mother deck. There are tons of different ways to build this commander. Is this going to be the best or most powerful? No, absolutely not. But for those that like to have a non-cookie cutter deck, this is an excellent framework to try out and experiment with to see if it is enjoyable to you. If you enjoy attacking with large stompy creatures, this will likely be right up your alley. This deck will be rather susceptible to board wipes, as any creature-focused deck would, but one benefit this has is that a number of the anthem effects come from enchantments, a much harder to deal with permanent type. This means that if your large board presence is wiped, it will be much easier to recover, as any creature you play will already be buffed substantially. Plus, with this being a budget deck of under $50, it makes for a good starting point, allowing you to upgrade it with more expensive and more powerful cards as desired. I hope you enjoyed watching this budget commander deck tech on Duskana the Rage Mother. The full deck list outlined in this video can be found on the Archidect link at the top of the description. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to drop a like and comment, as well as subscribe to the channel for more Magic content. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.